So you guys, hey, I'm back with another video. Today's video is about Sean Kingston cries in court after realizing he's going to prison. Okay, y'all know those allegations they did on Sean Kingston and his mother. I think it was back in 2024. Him and his mom was doing fraudulent wire charges, taking money from companies, getting cards and stuff and never paying for it, talking about, you give me this and I'll promote it with my friends, Justin Bieber, all the main rappers and artists that I know will do promotions for you free of charge, in exchange for these products. And they never paid for it, had no intent on paying for it, so they were stealing. So this is it coming back up in court, and they was found guilty. And he was crying in court, trying to plead his case.
Yikes, a rough wake-up call for Sean Kingston and his mother, who have both been convicted on federal wire fraud charges and now face literally decades behind bars. This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. You guys know Sean Kingston, specifically from his 2007 hit Beautiful Girls, which, to be honest, is very catchy. But there's a lyric from that song I wanted to point out for you all right now. In the second verse, he sings, which I'm not going to, he sings, quote, "When I went away for doing my first crime." Now, he sounds better as a singer as opposed to that dramatic reading, but I just wanted to point out that art does, in fact, sometimes mimic life. And in this case, that's exactly what's going to happen, because Sean Kingston will be headed to prison, as will his mom, because they've been convicted on 5 federal charges. To back up just a second before we get too far into it, we got to talk about Sean Kingston. He's 35 years old right now, and his real name is Keyshawn Anderson. His mom is 62 years old. Her name is Janice Turner. And federal prosecutors say they worked together, collaborated on this wire fraud scheme for thousands of dollars. This all started with a civil suit, actually. It was brought by Ver Entertainment, and basically what the people there were saying is they were working with Sean Kingston. He wanted this sound system, and Sean said, okay, if you guys give me a discount on this system when it's put into my home, I will give you promotional videos. I will be in them, and also one of my friends will be in them too, Justin Bieber. How can you guys pass that up? Me and Justin Bieber hanging out in promo videos for this company? Great. So Ver says, okay, cool. We're going to go ahead and give you the discount for all of this, give it to your home, whatever, he got it. However, Ver in their civil suit alleges that not only did they not get those promotional videos, including Justin Bieber and Sean Kingston, they also didn't get any payment for the product at all, like literally anything. So Ver wants their money, and they file civil suit against Sean Kingston, and that's really when things kind of get going. Investigators get a whiff of what is ahead, and they take a look. Pretty soon, some federal charges come down for both of them, 5 in fact, of wire fraud. And we'll get into what wire fraud exactly is in the interview, but basically,
Hey, y'all, so he felt like he was that down bad to where him and his mama had to do wire fraud. And like, that's basically like doing white collar crime, like doing fraudulent checks. You know, them white folks don't play about that. You feel me? They'll hurry up and lock you up over that. No offense, I ain't racist, but fraudulent stuff like that, wire fraud, that ain't nothing to play with, man. And then you Sean Kingston. Yes, so beautiful girl. Like, bro, you could have came back. You could have made a product, came out with a clothing line, printified free to start a free clothing line. I mean, you could have did something to get your name back out there and make some money. Like, all this money on freaking social media, and you was stealing from investors. It just don't make no sense.
Prosecutors say that Sean Kingston and his mom were getting high-end vehicles, jewelry, other luxury products, and simply not paying for them. So what they would do is that Sean Kingston and his mom would just pretend that they paid for something, but money never exchanged hands. So they brought forward these fraudulent documents saying, hey, right here, we paid for this. We're already good to go. Let's have this luxury vehicle, jewelry, or other high-end products. And it turns out they had never paid. All of this happens last year, 2024. Wind back the clock. And in May of last year, so almost a year ago, I sat down with Sean Kingston's attorney. Take a look at the interview. For some reason, I'm dressed like a pilgrim. I mean, it wasn't Thanksgiving. It's May. Unclear why I'm into this outfit. But okay, so besides me, I do talk to the attorney. And at this point, they're just allegations. Let's go to the clip. A couple of the things I've seen include conducting an organized scheme to defraud, grand theft, identity theft, related crimes. What do you make of all of these charges?
We don't think they're going to stick.
Spoiler alert, the charges stuck. Both of them went to federal trial, and they both got convicted. Janice testified, his mom testifies, but Sean Kingston decides not to testify at all, so we don't really know all of what he said, except that his defense was essentially that he was a child, even though he is age 35. His defense team says he's a child, he mismanaged his money, he doesn't know what he's doing with it, like this is a complete misunderstanding. We didn't hear that from him, just from his defense. Ultimately, though, they were both convicted, and according to local reports, local TV stations there, when this verdict is read, Sean Kingston is crying, and as his mom is being taken away, he yells, quote, "Protect my mother." What's interesting about Janice in all of this is that she's already been convicted of a similar crime. So this is back in 2006. She pleaded guilty to bank fraud and filing fraudulent loan application. She was sentenced to 16 months in prison, but was released in March of 2007. Just in time for the release of Beautiful Girls, because that came out on May 26, 2007. So, released from prison, that song comes out, they live their lives on the high of Beautiful Girls for many years to come, and then this month, get convicted. Sentencing hasn't happened just yet. However, one of the two is actually in jail right now. That's Janice. She was taken right after all of this, put in jail. However, Sean Kingston himself is not. He's basically on house arrest. He's got his GPS monitor. He's being monitored by people, I'm sure, as well as this GPS thing. And also, he posted bond. It was a home valued at $500,000. It was a relative's home. And then also $200,000 in cash. So one is in jail, one is not. However, sentencing is set for July, and they both face decades behind bars. They could face, they could be in there for 20 years. Who's to say? I need more info on all of this. Our guest is actually a Florida attorney, so let's go to him right now for more. All right, we are...
Dang, so out of both of them, one of them is in jail, and it's the mom, the 60-something-year-old mom? Dang. And they said he was in court crying, saying, "Protect my mom." It's like, you should have thought about that before you did that wire frauds, transactions. Because you should have known, like, hey, mom, if we do this, sure, we could go to jail. I don't want you in jail. I've been like, look, let's figure this out another way. Let's come out with a product. Let's come out with something. Maybe make another hit song somehow. Like, I built myself up. It's young kids making themselves famous on freaking YouTube. You could have did something, man, besides getting clout off your name and stealing from investors, talking about, I'll pay you this, knowing dang well you ain't going to pay them and ain't got the money to pay them. So the way he kept himself out of jail was he paid the $500,000 bond plus another $200,000. That's crazy.
Entering our interview phase now, and I'm really excited to bring on our guest today. It's criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla. Thank you for coming on with us today to talk about Sean Kingston and his mom. Just to start, wire fraud. It's a big name, but it's pretty simple, right? Like what it actually means.
Yeah, it's any time that you send anything fraudulent in any type of electric format, it could be considered a wire fraud.
And to me, it seems like that could be pretty easy to track.
Yeah, that's the problem with these cases, is that it's the type of thing that it's always going to be on record, and you're not going to escape the fact that, there's a transaction, there's an account number, there's your identity. So if it's linked to your actual identity, it's pretty easy to eventually connect the dots right back to you, which eventually you become a defendant. I mean, if you're operating as a completely fake person, then that's another hoop that the feds would have to, jump over to get you. But if you're committing these crimes like Sean Kingston and his mom, as the person, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly. They just go to the receipts, look up the name, and see, oh, it's that person. Okay, well, there we go. Bing, bang, boom.
Yeah.
And this one is interesting too, because there was civil cases ahead of it, because he said he was going to do some things, didn't end up doing them. It was like a promotional video situation with Justin Bieber. He said he would do to get a discounted surround system, a sound system. And then he didn't pay at all. So there was a civil suit, which eventually led to the criminal suit, which is something we kind of saw in P. Diddy, for instance. He had a couple of civil cases into criminal. Is that how this sometimes works, that these civil cases bring it to light and then people investigate?
Yeah, because listen, anytime that you have a civil action against you, there's the discovery phase. So there's lawyers on the other side working diligently, because when there's money on the line, it seems to me that that's when people work hardest. So they're taking discovery, they're taking deposition, and what they're doing is they're creating evidence related to your fraudulent activity. And at any moment, they can give that evidence to, the FBI. You're just, as a lawyer, you're ethically not allowed to use a criminal prosecution in aid of a civil action. But that doesn't mean that you can't just share the information with law enforcement if you believe a crime has been committed. You can't extort the other side, like, oh, I'm gonna rat you out to the FBI if you don't pay me what you owe me. You can't do that. But you can provide the information, and I think oftentimes that's what happens. So if you're out there committing criminal activity and you get sued, that's pretty much a precursor to that the FBI is coming, or that law enforcement is coming. The problem is that a lot of these people are so incredibly cheap that even when faced with a lawsuit over the malfeasance that they've committed, they still try and not pay, and instead of just like squashing it right away, they continue to fight and not pay.
Right. It seems like these are really serious charges, because we'll talk about this. The sentencing possibility is quite lengthy that they could spend. So to me, in my head, I'm like, why wouldn't they just pay? I would rather pay than go to prison. It just seems kind of strange to me. And when this first came out, I actually did interview Sean Kingston's attorney, and he basically said this is a huge misunderstanding. He had nothing to do with it. Now he's been convicted, so we know that he is guilty of the crime. But the main defense was that he's just a kid. Even though he's in his 30s, he's just a kid. He didn't know how to manage his money. That was basically their defense, saying he was a celebrity who had no idea what he was doing. I mean, he was convicted. Do you think that was a decent defense? I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen,
I would have linked up with Chris Brown, like, hey, Chris, look, all that stuff you've been through with Rihanna, look, they try to cut you off. They try to freaking cancel you. Look, I'm going through it. Like, how do I make a comeback? How do I get a hit song? Like, how do I do business? Freaking T-Pain even said Chris Brown know the business. That's wisdom from God. So, he should have seeked God, really. Yeah, that's what we should have seeked, God. But like, being that you was in the industry, you could have reached out to any of your fellow industry mates. Like, I would have hit Chris Brown. I would have, you feel me, pray to God, something, but anything but do fraudulent transactions. Because when you do those wire transfers and all that, bro, you're going to jail. Like he said, it's only a matter of time before you get caught.
I'm not gonna talk bad about the guy's defense. It didn't work. He may have had very little to go with when it comes to defenses. I don't know that much about the case or the evidence that was presented, but when you look at something that's on its face so stupid, I can only imagine the stupidity of the chats, the text messages back and forth, the WhatsApps that weren't deleted and that were taken when they took him and his mom's phones, or emails back and forth, So I think that in my experience, when things are on their face, they look stupid. When you start to take discovery and you start to dig, it gets even stupider. So I can only imagine what evidence they had against him and his mom at trial.
And I feel like To quote you, talking about it being stupid, he was taking pretty big swings, honestly. Like when he was working with that sound system company, he's like, I will do promotional videos for you, but also so will Justin Bieber. And I mean, to be fair, Sean Kingston did have this famous song in like 2007 or something, and we all know it. Like you and I were singing it before we started recording, so we know it. But he's no Justin Bieber. I mean, to me, that's very outlandish that Justin Bieber would be working on this local commercial. I mean, that to me even is hard to believe.
Yeah, it goes beyond stupidity. It's like delusional, and yeah, on its face, anybody that knows anything about show business will be like, "No, Bieber's not going to do that." Simple.
Right.
Bieber's not going to do that. Right? It's Justin Bieber. So, listen, I mean, he got himself in this predicament. It is serious, and judges, they sentence hard on these things. These are serious crimes. The way that federal judges look at it a lot is that it's not a victimless crime. Like there's money involved, there's restitution. And I've seen people get launched for things like this. I don't know what him and his mom are going to score. Now they're going to do a whole pre-sentence investigation where they're going to, the government is going to prepare a packet, probation is going to prepare a packet, and the judge is going to have guidelines to go by. I understand that his mom is in custody, and I think he's out on a bracelet. Yeah. So it's a bad situation, but for somebody like him, I mean, it seems to me like he put himself in this position.
Let's talk about his mom a bit too, because obviously she's involved in all of this. And what was interesting to me is that she had been convicted and served time a couple of decades ago for something somewhat similar. And now we have another conviction. And I'm wondering if that's going to affect sentencing potentially, the fact that she was already convicted of a similar crime. And now she's convicted once again, kind of showing she didn't change her ways or she wasn't reformed in a way. Do you think that could affect her sentencing?
Yeah, that's pretty much probably the way the prosecution is going to start off their sentencing argument. Like she didn't learn her lesson, and this is something that anytime that you've been, any criminal history that you have can and will be used against you at sentencing, especially if it's something that's factually similar to what's occurring, because now you can't even really play stupid, right? And then a problem is that sentencing is, if you want to continue to play stupid, which is going to be the word for this interview, right? If you want to continue to play stupid and that you didn't know, right? Then the government is like, and the judge is going to be like, you don't even have remorse.
Let me get.
You let this